The way you handled situations, dismissing me when I try to talk, hurt me deeply, and it's something I can't ignore.
What did you say to me?
A Korean mafia boss hated black women, agreed to one blind date. She changed his life forever. Jinwoo Park had built his empire on 3 principles. Never apologize, never explain, and never, under any circumstances, let a woman make you feel something. Then Amora Johnson walked into that restaurant, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "You know, for a crime lord, you have terrible posture." Everything he thought he knew about control died right there over complimentary Kim Kai. Before we begin, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and keeps these powerful stories coming. This is a story about bias, unexpected connection, and one moment that changed everything. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m., which was precisely when Jinwoo Park was reviewing quarterly earnings from his legitimate businesses, the ones that paid taxes and had HR departments and didn't require anyone to dig holes in the countryside. *1 date. Thursday, 7 p.m. My Yongdong. I've already told her you're a venture capitalist. Try not to disappoint me more than usual. Choi *. Jinwoo stared at his phone like it had just confessed to wire fraud. Mr. Choi, his father's oldest friend and the only person alive who could guilt-trip him into anything, had apparently decided that running Seoul's most efficient underground loan operation wasn't enough to keep a man busy. Now he needed hobbies. Romance. Feelings. Absolutely not. Jinwoo said to his empty penthouse, the city lights of Seoul sprawling beneath him like a kingdom he'd conquered but couldn't enjoy. The Han River snaked through the darkness, beautiful and indifferent, much like Jinwoo himself on a good day. His phone buzzed again. Her name is Amora. She's American. Smart. Works in international consulting. Your grandmother already likes her. Jinwoo's eye twitched. Bringing his grandmother into this was psychological warfare, and Choi knew it. The old woman had been dropping hints about great-grandchildren with the subtlety of a sledgehammer for 3 years now. Last Chuseok, she'd actually introduced him to her neighbor's daughter, her neighbor's daughter's friend, and a woman she'd met at the grocery store who had nice childbearing hips, which was apparently still an acceptable thing to say if you were 83 and terrifying. He typed back, I'm busy. Choi's response was immediate. You're dying alone. Thursday. Don't be late. She's too good for you anyway. Jinwoo set down his phone and poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey, Japanese, expensive, the kind that tasted like regret and oak. He'd built everything in his life with precision. Every associate carefully vetted. Every transaction meticulously documented. Every threat neutralized before it could become a problem. His world ran on fear and respect in equal measure, greased with enough money to make people forget they were afraid. Women had always been simple transactions too. Expensive dinners, expensive hotels, expensive goodbyes. No one asked questions. No one expected answers. It was clean, efficient, and utterly hollow. But Jinwoo had made peace with hollow years ago. Hollow was safe. Hollow didn't betray you. But there was something else, something he'd never examined too closely, like a bruise you don't press because you know it'll hurt. His prejudices sat in him like inherited silver, tarnished, outdated, but never polished enough to see clearly. Black women existed in his mental category file under foreign, incompatible, too different. He'd absorbed his grandmother's casual racism like secondhand smoke, his father's dismissive comments about those people becoming his own reflexive assumptions. Loud, aggressive, not our kind. He'd never actually met a black woman, of course. Why would he? His world was Korean businessmen, Japanese investors, and occasionally Chinese partners who smiled with too many teeth. Everyone else was just background noise in a city that never stopped moving. Thursday arrived with the inevitability of taxes and death. Jinwoo dressed in his armor, Tom Ford suit in charcoal, no tie because ties suggested you were trying, Italian leather shoes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw exactly what he wanted to see. Ice Prince, untouchable, unbothered, already planning his exit. 20 minutes of polite conversation. Fake phone call from the office. Apologetic bow. Gone. Easy. The restaurant Choi had chosen was insultingly normal. The kind of place where salaries got celebrated and relationships got ended over shared appetizers. Jinwoo arrived 15 minutes late on purpose, a power play so obvious it was almost juvenile. But old habits died hard. The hostess led him to a corner table with a view of nothing interesting. He sat, ordered water, and checked his watch. 7:16 p.m. If she was the type to be punctual despite his deliberate tardiness, that told him something. If she'd already left, that told him something else. Either way, this would be over soon. Then the door opened, and Jinwoo's entire carefully constructed evening collapsed. Amora Johnson walked in like she owned the restaurant, the block, and possibly the entire concept of confidence. Dark skin that caught the warm lighting and reflected it back like a challenge. Natural hair pulled into a low bun that suggested she had better things to do than perform for strangers. Navy dress, simple but well cut, with silver jewelry that whispered instead of shouted. She moved unhurried, unapologetic, like someone who'd already decided the evening would be interesting regardless of who showed up. When she spotted him, she smiled. Not the nervous twitter of someone seeking approval, but the genuine amusement of someone who'd already won a private bet with herself. Jinwoo felt something crack in his chest, small and dangerous. Jinwoo. Her voice was textured, confident, American in a way that suggested Chicago or maybe Atlanta. You look like you're waiting for a firing squad. Should I be concerned? Or is this your happy face? He stewed automatically, bowed slightly, and felt 20 years of assumptions squirm uncomfortably in the light of reality. He paused, recalibrating. I'm fine. Please, sit. I will, thanks. She sat without waiting for him to pull out her chair, which should have annoyed him but instead felt refreshing. So, venture capitalist. That's what Choi told me. Is that code for something illegal? Or are you actually boring? Jinwoo blinked. No one called him boring. Terrifying, yes. Ruthless, frequently. But boring? It's complicated, he managed. Everything interesting is. She picked up the menu, scanned it with practiced efficiency, then set it down. I'm getting the galbai and whatever wine pairs with moral ambiguity. You. And just like that, Jinwoo's script, the one he'd been writing since Choi's text message, caught fire and burned to ash. The wine arrived first, a Chilean red that the sommelier promised would open up beautifully, which Jinwoo suspected was restaurant speak for we need to move inventory. Amara swirled it once, sniffed, and took a sip without any of the performative tasting rituals Jinwoo had endured with other dates. So, she said, setting down her glass. Choi told me you're successful, single, and emotionally unavailable. I'm assuming 2 out of 3 is accurate. Jinwoo felt his eyebrows climb toward his hairline. He said that. Not in those words. But I'm fluent in Korean on to speak. Very focused on work. Means emotionally unavailable. Takes care of his mother means mama's boy. Handsome just means you have all your teeth and hair. She leaned back, studying him with unsettling directness. You do have nice teeth, though. Viennese. Natural, he said, slightly offended. Lucky genetics. Then, my cousin spent 15 grand on his smile. Looks like a game show host now. She picked up her chopsticks as their appetizers arrived. Kim Kai pancake for her, japchae for him. So what's your damage, Jinwoo? And please don't say you work too much. That's what every emotionally stunted man says right before he ghosts you after 3 dates. He should have been irritated. This woman had known him for exactly 7 minutes and was already cataloging his flaws like she was writing a Yelp review. Instead, he found himself almost smiling. I don't ghost, he said carefully. Oh, what do you do? I'm direct. Meaning you send a "this isn't working" text at 11 p.m. on a Sunday and then block their number. She bit into the pancake, made an appreciative sound. That's just ghosting with extra steps, my guy. Jinwoo opened his mouth to argue, then realized she was absolutely right. He had done exactly that. 3 times. Last year alone. You're very perceptive, he said instead. I'm from Chicago. We're born reading people. She pointed her chopsticks at him. South Side, specifically. You learn real quick who's genuine and who's running game. You're running game on yourself, which is honestly more interesting. I don't follow. Sure you do. Amora took another sip of wine, her eyes never leaving his. You walked in here 15 minutes late. Power move. Very transparent. You're sitting with your back to the wall. Control thing. Also transparent. Your suit probably costs more than my rent. But you're not wearing a tie because ties are trying too hard. Everything about you screams, I'm in control. Except your legs been bouncing under the table since I sat down. Jinwoo's legs stopped immediately. He hadn't even realized. Amora grinned. See, you're nervous. Which means you actually care how this goes. Which means Choi was right about you being a disaster. I like it. Disasters are interesting. I'm not a disaster. Baby, you're a Korean venture capitalist who let his grandmother's friend set him up on a blind date. That's either disaster or desperation, and you don't strike me as desperate. She paused. Are you desperate? No. Then disaster it is. She raised her glass in a mock toast. Here's to poor life choices and the stories they make. Jinwoo found himself raising his glass too, despite every instinct screaming that he was losing control of the conversation. They drank, and the wine did open up beautifully. Rich, complex, with a finish that lingered like a good secret. So why did you agree to this? Amora asked, her tone shifting slightly, still light, but with genuine curiosity underneath. You clearly didn't want to come. The honest answer sat on his tongue like a confession. Asterisk because I'm tired of being alone in a city full of people. Because my penthouse feels like a museum of my own isolation. Because Choi looked at me last week and said I was becoming a ghost, and I didn't have a good argument against it. Asterisk. Instead, he said, family obligation. Amora's expression suggested she heard everything he didn't say. That's the diplomatic answer. Want to try for the honest one? Not particularly. Fair enough. I'll go first. Then. She set down her chopsticks, folding her hands on the table in a gesture that felt oddly formal. I agreed because I've been in Seoul for 6 months. I've gone on exactly 0 dates because I'm always working, and my mother threatened to fly here personally to fix my life if I didn't at least try. Also, Choi showed me your picture, and you're hot in that probably hesitant secret way that I find unfortunately attractive. Jinwoo choked slightly on his wine. Too honest? Amora asked, not sounding apologetic at all. Unexpectedly honest. I don't do games, Jinwoo. Life's too short, and I've wasted enough time on men who think mystery is the same as emotional constipation. She leaned forward. So here's what I'm thinking. We finish this dinner. You tell me at least one true thing about yourself. Doesn't have to be deep, just true. I'll do the same. Then we decide if there's a second date or if we part as friendly strangers who had decent galbye together. That's very transactional, says the venture capitalist. She smiled. Everything's a transaction, Jinwoo. The question is whether we're trading something worth having. Their main courses arrived. Galbye for her, bulgogi for him, and they ate in a silence that felt less awkward than evaluative. Jinwoo watched her enjoy her food without performance or apology, the way she caught the server's eye to ask for more banchan without making it a production. She belonged in her skin in a way he'd forgotten was possible. Okay, he said finally. One true thing. Amora looked up, interested. I agreed to this dinner because I'm lonely, Jinwoo heard himself say. And I didn't know how else to stop being lonely except to let someone else make the decision for me. The words hung in the air between them, vulnerable and slightly ridiculous. Jinwoo immediately regretted them, his instinct to retreat rising like a defense mechanism. But Amora just nodded slowly, like he confirmed something she'd already suspected. Okay, that's honest. Thank you. Your turn, he said, needing to shift the spotlight. She considered for a moment, twirling her wine glass. I agreed because I'm scared I'm becoming the kind of person who only exists at work. I'm good at my job. Great, actually. International consulting, crisis management, all very impressive on LinkedIn. But last week I realized I couldn't remember the last time I laughed at something that wasn't a colleague's joke in a meeting. That's sad. I don't want to be sad. Jinwoo understood that more than he wanted to admit. So, Amora said, her smile returning like sunrise. We're both disasters trying not to be disasters. That's a start, right? That's something, he agreed. His phone buzzed. Jinwoo glanced at it reflexively. A message from his second-in-command, Minute J. 3 words. Asterisk Daejung situation. Urgent. Asterisk. Every instinct screamed to leave immediately. Business came first. Always. It was the rule that had built his empire, the principle that separated him from the desperate men who'd failed before him. But Amora was watching him with those two perceptive eyes, and Jinwoo made a choice that surprised himself. He silenced his phone and put it face down on the table. Not important, she asked. Not more important than this. Amora's smile turned genuine, soft around the edges in a way that made Jinwoo's chest do that dangerous thing again. Well, she said, that's two true things now. You on a roll. And for the first time in years, Jinwoo Park laughed, really laughed, in a restaurant in Myeongdong, over Galbai and moral ambiguity, while his empire waited and the world kept spinning without him. The dinner stretched into 3 hours, then 4. The restaurant staff began giving them looks. The polite Korean version of please leave, we have families, but neither Jinwoo nor Amora seemed inclined to notice. Somewhere between the second bottle of wine and dessert they hadn't ordered but received anyway, Jinwoo realized he'd been talking about things he never discussed. Not the business, obviously. He wasn't an idiot. But everything around it. The weight of inherited expectations. The loneliness of being feared. The way Seoul felt simultaneously like home and prison. My father built the foundation, he heard himself saying. But he was charismatic. People followed him because they wanted to. Me? I'm efficient. They follow because the alternative is wise. Amora had finished her panna cotta and was now stealing bites of his tiramisu without asking, which should have annoyed him but didn't. So you're saying your leadership style is fear and spreadsheets? Essentially. Have you considered therapy? Because therapy seems indicated here. Jinwoo nearly snorted wine through his nose. Koreans don't do therapy. Koreans invented Han, generational trauma as a cultural identity. You absolutely need therapy. She pointed a stolen spoon at him. But I'm guessing you think talking about feelings is weak, emotions are liabilities, and vulnerability is something that happens to other people. He stared at her. Are you psychic? No. I'm black and American. We invented therapy and then couldn't afford it, so we got really good at reading people instead. She set down the spoon, her expression softening. Look, Jinwoo, I get it. You've built something, you're protecting it, and letting people in feels dangerous. But you know what's actually dangerous? Becoming so closed off that you forget you're human. That's not strength. That's just sad. The word again. Sad. It bothered him how much it landed. What about you? He asked, deflecting. International consulting. Crisis management. You're in Seoul alone, working constantly. Who's protecting you from becoming a workaholic disaster? Oh, I'm absolutely a workaholic disaster, Amora said cheerfully. But I'm a self-aware workaholic disaster, which is totally different. I know I'm avoiding things, like how my last relationship ended because he wanted me to be smaller, quieter, more manageable. His word, not mine. Or how my mother keeps asking when I'm coming home to Chicago like Seoul is a phase instead of a choice. She paused. Or how sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. wondering if I'm running towards something or just away from everything else. Jinwoo felt something shift in his chest. Recognition, maybe. The understanding that loneliness wore different clothes but spoke the same language. 3 a.m. is a terrible hour, he said quietly. The worst. Nothing good happens at 3 a.m. except regret and overthinking. And online shopping. Oh my god, yes. I bought a standing desk at 3 a.m. last month. I don't even want a standing desk. I hate standing. She laughed, and the sound filled something in Jinwoo he hadn't realized was empty. We're a mess, aren't we? Completely. Want to be a mess together for a while. See where it goes. It was the easiest question with the most complicated answer. Jinwoo thought about his world, the violence, the moral compromises, the men who smiled at him while mentally calculating their escape routes. He thought about the warehouse in Incheon, the decisions he made in shadows, the parts of himself he'd had to kill to become who he was. Then he looked at Amora, direct, funny, unflinchingly herself, and made another choice that surprised him. Yes. Her smile could have powered the entire Gangnam district. Okay, then, ground rules, no ghosting, no games. And if this gets weird, we talk about it like adults instead of passive-aggressively posting vague Instagram stories. I don't have Instagram. Of course you don't. You probably think social media is for people with too much time and too few secrets. She wasn't wrong. They left the restaurant at 11 p.m., stepping into Seoul's neon-soaked night. The city hummed around them, couples walking hand in hand, street vendors packing up, the eternal rhythm of a place that never quite slept. Jinwoo usually loved this hour, when the legitimate world went to bed and his world woke up. But tonight, he just wanted to keep talking to the woman beside him. "I'll get you a cab," he said, pulling out his phone. "I can get my own cab, Jinwoo. I'm a functioning adult." "I know, but I'm trying to be. What's the word? Chivalrous." Chivalry is just benevolent sexism with better marketing. But she was smiling. "Though I appreciate the effort. You can walk me to the cab stand." That's appropriately chivalrous without being patronizing. They walked in comfortable silence, their shoulders occasionally brushing. Jinwoo noticed things he normally wouldn't. The way streetlights caught in her hair, how she walked with purpose even when there was nowhere urgent to be, the small humming sound she made that suggested she was content. At the cab stand, she turned to him. "So, second date. If you're willing to risk it." "Oh, I'm always willing to risk it. That's how I ended up in Seoul in the first place." She pulled out her phone. "Give me your number. And actually answer when I text. Or I'm showing up at your office with embarrassing questions." Jinwoo gave her his personal number, the one only 5 people had, and felt the significance of that choice settle over him like a coat. Amora typed something quickly, and his phone buzzed. He looked down. This is Amora. That wasn't so hard, was it? Same time next week. I'll pick the place. Prepare yourself for more uncomfortable honesty and mediocre wine pairings. He typed back. I'll clear my schedule. Her phone chimed. She read it, grinned, and looked up at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You know what I think, Jinwoo." "What?" "I think you're not nearly as cold as you pretend to be. I think you're actually kind of soft under all that designer armor, and it terrifies you." She stepped closer, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something warm and subtle, like amber and secrets. "Lucky for you. I like terrified. It's honest." Then she did something that stopped his brain entirely. She reached up and adjusted his collar, which hadn't needed adjusting, her fingers brushing against his neck with casual intimacy. "Yeah," she said softly. "Now you look like a man who had a good date instead of a man planning a hostile takeover." A cab pulled up before Jinwoo could formulate a response that wasn't completely inadequate. Amora opened the door, paused, and looked back at him one more time. "Oh, and Jinwoo, whatever that urgent text was earlier, the one you ignored for me, I hope it wasn't too important." She slid into the cab, the door closed, and Jinwoo watched the taillights disappear into Seoul's endless traffic. Then he pulled out his phone and saw 17 missed messages from Minute J, each more urgent than the last. Boss, Daejung took money from the Incheon operation. Is claiming it was authorized. It wasn't. The crew is waiting for instructions. Boss. This is getting out of hand. They need to see you handle this. The last message was from an hour ago. If you don't respond soon, I'm making the call. He needs to learn. We all need to see it. Jinwoo stood in the neon glow of Myeongdong, caught between the man he'd been 4 hours ago and whoever he might be becoming. The old Jinwoo would have already been in his car, already mentally planning the lesson Daejung needed to learn. Fear was the currency of his world, and mercy was just another word for weakness. But he could still feel where Amora's fingers had brushed his neck, could still hear her voice. Yo. Working harder at being cold than most people work at being warm. That's exhausting, Jinwoo. And for what? He typed back to Minute J. Don't touch him. I'll handle it tomorrow. My way. The response came immediately. Boss. The crew is expecting. Tomorrow. My way. That's final. Jinwoo pocketed his phone and started walking toward his car, the city lights blurring around him like watercolors. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Somewhere closer, people laughed. And somewhere in his chest, something that felt dangerously like hope was starting to crack through the ice. He was probably going to regret this. But for the first time in years, regret seemed worth the risk. The Incheon warehouse smelled like every bad decision Jinwoo had ever made. Motor oil, cigarette smoke, and the particular staleness that came from places where legitimate business never happened. He'd owned the building for 6 years, used it for 3 types of operations, and never once brought a date within 10 kilometers of it. Until tonight. So this is where the magic happens. Amora said, stepping out of his Mercedes like she was arriving at a gallery opening instead of a place where people learned painful lessons about loyalty. She texted him that afternoon. Dinner at 8? I'm picking the place this time. And he'd responded with something insane. I have business to handle first. Want to see what I actually do? 30 seconds of typing bubbles. Then, yes. Pick me up at 7. Now she stood in the warehouse doorway, wearing jeans and a leather jacket that suggested she'd guessed the dress code, looking around with the clinical interest of someone assessing real estate. It's very atmospheric, she said. I'm getting industrial chic meets probable crime scene. Is that the aesthetic you were going for? Minute J, standing near Daejung's kneeling form, looked at Jinwoo with an expression that clearly said, what the hell is happening? Jinwoo wondered the same thing. Bringing Amora here violated approximately 17 rules he'd set for himself. But after 3 days of texting her, conversations that ranged from Korean food recommendations to the existential dread of Tuesday mornings, he'd realized something terrifying. He wanted her to see him. The real him. Even the parts that might make her run. Especially those parts. Amora, he said carefully, this is Minute J, my associate. Minute J, this is Amora Johnson. Minute J bowed slightly, confusion written all over his face. In 6 years, Jinwoo had never introduced him to anyone outside the business. Pleasure to meet you. Likewise. Amora's eyes tracked to the young man on his knees, early 20s, terrified, with the kind of face that still believed the world might be fair. And who's our friend on the floor? Daejung, Jinwoo said. He made a financial error. Financial error. Amora tasted the words like wine. That's corporate speak for theft, isn't it? Daejung's head snapped up, desperation flooding his features. Hyungnim, please, I can explain. You've had 3 days to explain. Minute J cut in, his voice cold. Boss, we need to handle this. The crew is watching. They need to see. They'll see what I decide they see, Jinwoo said quietly. The warehouse fell silent. He walked forward, each footstep echoing off concrete. This was the moment where Ice Prince showed up, where Jinwoo Park reminded everyone why fear kept his empire running. Daejung had stolen 40 million won from the Incheon loan operation, not enough to hurt the business, but enough to hurt the principal. In Jinwoo's world, principles were everything. They were the difference between respect and chaos. Daejung was trembling now, tears streaming down his face. My daughter needed surgery. The hospital wanted payment up front. I was going to pay it back, I swear. You stole from Kim's operation, Jinwoo said. His voice could have frozen the Han River. Kim, who has 3 kids. Kim, whose oldest daughter needs money for university. You stole from him to save your daughter. What about his? I didn't think. No, you didn't. Jinwoo crouched down, making eye contact. This was usually when he delivered the lesson, the moment where someone learned that desperation didn't excuse betrayal, that the organization was bigger than individual need, that mercy was a luxury he couldn't afford. Then Amora's voice cut through the warehouse like a bell. Jinwoo. Not a question, not a plea, just his name, spoken with the same calm certainty she brought to everything. He looked back at her. She stood 20 feet away, hands in her jacket pockets, but her eyes were locked on his with an intensity that made his chest tight. Is this who you are? She asked quietly. Or is this who you think you have to be? Minute J stepped forward. With respect, Miss, you don't understand how this works. I understand perfectly. She didn't break eye contact with Jinwoo. I'm watching a man decide between being feared and being decent. I'm watching someone perform for an audience that doesn't actually exist. And I'm wondering if the man I had dinner with last week is still in there. Or if this is all there is. The warehouse held its breath. Jinwoo looked at Daejung, really looked, and saw not a threat to his authority, but a terrified kid who'd made a desperate choice. He saw the way Minute J and the other men watched him, waiting for the Ice Prince to remind them why they followed. He saw his empire, built on fear and calculated violence, stretching out before him like a road with no exits. Then he saw Amora, looking at him like he was worth the effort of being better. How much does your daughter need? Jinwoo heard himself ask. Daejung blinked. What? The surgery. Total cost. 60 million won. But Hyungnim, I already took 40. You'll return the 40 million within 90 days. Zero interest. Jinwoo stood up, feeling something shift in his chest. Tectonic. Irreversible. The additional 20 million is a loan from me personally. You'll pay it back over 2 years, standard rate. Your daughter gets her surgery. Kim gets his money back. And you learn that when you're desperate, you ask for help instead of stealing. Understand? Daejung stared at him like he'd started speaking ancient Greek. Yes. Yes, Hyungnim. Thank you. Get out. And Daejung. Jinwoo's voice dropped back to ice. If I ever hear about you taking what isn't yours again, we'll have a very different conversation. This isn't mercy. It's a business decision. Don't make me regret it. The young man scrambled to his feet and fled like salvation had an expiration date. Minute J approached slowly, his expression unreadable. Boss, the crew will talk. They'll say you're going soft. Let them talk. Jinwoo met his oldest associate's eyes. But make sure they also hear this. I'm not soft. I'm smart. Fear keeps people in line. But fear also makes them desperate. Desperate people make stupid choices. Daejung just learned he can come to me before doing something stupid. That's not weakness. That's efficiency. Minute J considered this, then nodded slowly. I'll make sure they understand. Good. Now everyone out. I have dinner plans. The warehouse cleared like someone had pulled a fire alarm. When the last associate disappeared, Jinwoo finally turned to face Amora. She was smiling, not with triumph or satisfaction, but with something that looked dangerously like pride. So, she said, walking toward him, that was either character growth or the beginning of a hostile takeover of your own personality. Which is it? I have no idea, Jinwoo admitted. His hands were shaking slightly, adrenaline from breaking his own rules flooding his system. That was possibly the stupidest thing I've ever done. Or the smartest. She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could see flecks of gold in her brown eyes. You know what I just watched? I watched a man choose who he wants to be instead of who he thinks he has to be. That's not stupid, Jinwoo. That's brave. Brave gets you killed in my world. Maybe. Or maybe your world is smaller than you think. She reached up and, just like outside the restaurant last week, adjusted his collar with casual intimacy. Besides, you've got to admit, being decent felt pretty good, didn't it? He wanted to deny it. Wanted to explain that mercy was complicated, that one good deed didn't erase the others, that he was still the ice prince who'd built an empire on fear. Instead, he heard himself say, yeah, it did. Good. Now take me to dinner before I start thinking you're secretly a good person. That would complicate things. As they walked out of the warehouse into Seoul's glittering night, Jinwoo felt the weight of his choice settling over him. He'd just shown weakness, or mercy, or humanity, depending on who you asked, in front of his crew. Word would spread. People would wonder. Some would see opportunity. But Amora's hand brushed against his as they walked to the car, and Jinwoo realized something that should have terrified him. He'd do it again. He'd make the same choice, face the same consequences, risk the same reputation. All for the way she was looking at him right now. Like he was more than his empire, bigger than his fear, worth the risk of being human. He was definitely going to regret this. But not tonight. The restaurant Amora chose was everything Jinwoo's world wasn't. Loud, chaotic, packed with families and first dates and people who laugh without checking over their shoulders. A Korean soul food fusion place in Itaewon run by a black woman from Atlanta and her Korean husband. The menu promised collard green mandu and fried chicken with gochujang glaze, which sounded like either genius or disaster. Trust me, Amora said, leading him to a corner table. This place will change your life. That's what you said about the warehouse visit. And was I wrong? She grinned, flagging down a server. 2 soju bottles, the fried chicken, collard green mandu, and whatever your special is tonight. The server, a young woman with purple hair and an eyebrow piercing, looked at Jinwoo with obvious recognition. Her smile faltered slightly. Mr. Park, I didn't know you. We don't usually see you here. Of course she recognized him. Half of Seoul's service industry knew his face, if not his business. It was the price of building an empire. Visibility without privacy. First time for everything, Jinwoo said, keeping his voice neutral. When the server left, Amora leaned forward. She knows you. People know me. Should I be concerned? Are you secretly famous? Oh God, are you a K-pop idol with a dark past? Her eyes widened with mock horror. Is that why you're so pretty? I'm not a K-pop idol. Pity. I'd be great as an idol girlfriend. I can pretend to be surprised by paparazzi and everything. She poured soju into 2 shot glasses with practiced efficiency. But seriously, venture capital doesn't usually come with name recognition at chicken restaurants. What's the real story, Jinwoo? This was the moment. The conversation he'd been avoiding since their first date, dancing around with euphemisms and careful omissions. But after tonight, after bringing her to the warehouse, after making a choice that might cost him everything, what was the point of more lies? I run a loan operation, he said quietly. Among other things, it's not entirely legal. Amora's hand paused halfway to her soju glass. Define not entirely legal. High-interest loans to people banks won't touch. Protection services for businesses in certain neighborhoods. Investment opportunities that bypass traditional regulations. He met her eyes. I'm what Americans would call a loan shark. What Koreans call a boss. The table fell silent. Around them, the restaurant buzzed with life. Laughter, clinking glasses, the sizzle of chicken in the kitchen. But in their corner, the world had shrunk to just the two of them and the truth sitting between them like a third party. So the warehouse, Amora said slowly. That wasn't a metaphor. No. And Daejung really did steal from you. Yes. And you normally would have. She trailed off, but they both knew how that sentence ended. Jinwoo waited for disgust, for her to stand up and walk out, for the evening to end the way these things always ended when reality crashed into fantasy. Instead, Amora picked up her soju glass, downed it in 1 shot, and poured herself another. Okay, she said finally. Follow-up questions. Are you going to hurt me? No. Are you going to hurt people I care about? No. Are you planning to use me for something nefarious, money laundering, fake marriage, elaborate insurance fraud? No. Do you hurt people who don't deserve it? That question was more complicated. Jinwoo thought about his empire, the choices he'd made, the lines he'd crossed. I try not to, but my definition of deserve might be different from yours. Amora nodded slowly, processing. Here's what I'm thinking. You could have lied just now. Could have kept up the venture capitalist story, and I probably would have believed it for a while. But you told the truth, which means either you're an idiot or you actually care what I think. She paused. Are you an idiot? Jury's still out. Fair. She downed her 2nd shot. Look, Jinwoo, I'm not naive. I grew up on the South Side. I know what survival looks like when the system isn't built for you. I've watched good people make complicated choices because the right choice wasn't actually available. So I'm not going to pearl clutch and pretend the world is simple. But, there was always a but. But I need to know who you are when you have a choice. Tonight at the warehouse, that was you choosing. Was that real? Or was that performance because I was watching? The question hit harder than any physical blow. Jinwoo thought about Daejung's face, the relief flooding through when Jinwoo offered mercy instead of violence. He thought about how it felt to choose differently, to crack open the ice just enough to let something human through. It was real, he said. I don't know if I can be that person all the time, but I want to try. Amora studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled, slow, genuine, with that hint of mischief that made his chest do dangerous things. Okay then, we'll figure it out together. She raised her 3rd shot glass. To complicated people making complicated choices and hoping they don't completely screw it up. Jinwoo raised his glass, feeling something in his chest unknot. That's a terrible toast. All the best ones are. They drank, and the soju burned in the best way. Warm, cleansing, like absolution in liquid form. The food arrived in a glorious parade of fusion chaos. The fried chicken was perfect, crispy, spicy, with a gochujang glaze that made Jinwoo's eyes water in the best way. The collard green mandu were ridiculous and delicious, comfort food meeting tradition in a dumpling wrapper. They ate with their hands, laughing at the mess, and Jinwoo couldn't remember the last time food had tasted like joy instead of fuel. So, Amora said, wiping sauce from her fingers. If you're a crime boss, does that make me a crime boss's girlfriend? Is there a handbook? Do I get business cards? We've had 2 dates. That's not exactly girlfriend territory. 2 dates where you showed me your secret warehouse and confessed to organized crime. That's either girlfriend territory or you're really bad at casual dating. She pointed a drumstick at him. Also, you just called it girlfriend territory, which suggests you've been thinking about it. He had been. Constantly. Annoyingly. Maybe, he admitted. Good. Because I've been thinking about it too. She set down the chicken, her expression turning serious. But here's the thing, Jinwoo. I need you to understand something about me. I don't do halfway. I don't do let's see where this goes with no actual intention of going anywhere. If we're doing this, really doing this, I need to know you're all in. Not perfect, not problem-free, but committed to trying. And if I can't promise perfect is boring. I want real. She reached across the table, her hand covering his. The man at the warehouse tonight. The one who chose mercy when violence would have been easier. That's who I want. Can you be him? Jinwoo looked at their hands, her dark skin against his, the contrast beautiful and terrifying. He thought about his empire, built on fear and control. He thought about the Ice Prince, the reputation that kept him safe and lonely. He thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea, all the ways it could go wrong, all the people who would see this as weakness. Then he thought about Amora adjusting his collar outside the restaurant, her voice in the warehouse asking if this was who he had to be, the way she looked at him like he was worth the risk of being human. I can try, he said. I want to try. That's all I'm asking. She squeezed his hand. Now, let's talk about your friends. Because if Minute J is representative of your social circle, we need to expand your horizons immediately. That man looked at me like I was an alien species. He's never seen me with anyone before. See? That's sad. Everyone needs to see their crime boss friends in healthy relationships. It builds character. She grinned. Also, I'm going to need to know everyone's names, ranks, and whether they are likely to murder me in my sleep. Just for planning purposes. No one's murdering you. Promise. Promise. Good. Because I'm very annoying when dead. I'd haunt you so effectively. They finished dinner in a blur of laughter and soju, the restaurant fading into background noise as they built their own world in the corner booth. Amora told stories about Chicago, growing up with 3 brothers who taught her to fight, a mother who believed in education and church with equal fervor, the scholarship that brought her to Seoul. Jinwoo found himself sharing things he never shared. His father's death, the weight of inheritance, the way Seoul felt like a city of ghosts some nights. When they finally left, stumbling slightly from soju and honesty, Seoul had transformed into its late-night version, neon and possibility, endless and forgiving. So, Amora said as they stood outside the restaurant. 3rd date. Definitely. Your place or mine. And before you get excited, I mean for actual dinner. I cook a mean jambalaya, and you need to see how a normal person lives. I know how normal people live. You live in a penthouse and drive a Mercedes that costs more than most people's houses. You absolutely do not know how normal people live. She pulled out her phone. Saturday, 7 p.m. My apartment in Hongdae. Bring wine and an open mind. What if I have business? Then move it. I'm more important than business now. Those are the rules. She stepped closer, and Jinwoo's breath caught. Question. Are you going to kiss me? Or do I need to do everything myself? His brain short-circuited. I what? Kiss. Me. It's a pretty standard 3rd date activity. Except we're doing it after the 2nd date because I'm impatient and you've been staring at my lips for 20 minutes. I haven't. Jinwoo. Less talking, more kissing. So he kissed her. It was nothing like the calculated transactions he was used to, nothing smooth or practiced or controlled. It was messy and perfect, tasting like soju and gochujang in new beginnings. Her hand slid to the back of his neck, pulling him closer, and Jinwoo felt 20 years of ice crack and melt and flood away. When they finally broke apart, Amora was grinning like she'd won something. Well, she said breathlessly, that was worth the wait. Same time Saturday. Saturday, he agreed, his voice rough. She kissed him once more. Quick, decisive, then stepped back. Go home, crime boss. Dream about me. I'll see you in a few days. Then she was gone, disappearing into a cab, leaving Jinwoo standing on an Itaewon Street corner like a teenager after his first date. His phone buzzed. Minute J. Asterisk boss. About tonight. The crew has questions. Asterisk. Jinwoo stayed at the message, then at the spot where Amora had been standing. For the first time in his life, the Empire could wait. He texted back, handle it. I'm busy. Asterisk. Asterisk with what? Asterisk. Jinwoo smiled at his phone, feeling reckless and alive and terrified in the best way. Asterisk living. Asterisk. Saturday arrived with the subtlety of a train wreck. Jinwoo woke at 5 a.m., his usual time. But instead of reviewing accounts or planning collections, he found himself Googling what wine pairs with jambalaya like a college student preparing for a first date. His penthouse felt different somehow, too clean and sterile, like a museum exhibit of a life not actually lived. Minute J called at 7 a.m. Boss, we need to talk about the Daejung situation. I thought you handled it. I explained your reasoning. They understood. But there's concern. Minute J's voice carried a weight Jinwoo recognized, the careful diplomacy of someone delivering bad news. Some of the younger guys think you're changing. They are wondering if the organization is changing with you. And the older crew, they remember your father. They are watching to see which path you take. A pause. There are people who preferred your father's approach, boss. More traditional. Less mercy. Jinwoo sat up, the conversation taking a shape he didn't like. Are you telling me I have a problem? Minute J. I'm telling you that change makes people nervous. Nervous people make poor decisions. Another pause. There's talk that Kim Sang-minute from Busan is interested in expanding north. If he thinks Seoul's getting soft, let him think what he wants. Seoul isn't soft. It's evolving. Evolution looks like weakness to some people. Then those people need better education. Jinwoo stood, walking to his floor-to-ceiling windows. Seoul stretched out beneath him, waking up and indifferent. Schedule a meeting for Monday. Full crew. I'll address the concerns directly. Yes, boss. Minute J hesitated. The woman. Amora. Is she? Are we expecting her to be around? The question carried subtext, layers of concern about security, about loyalty, about whether Jinwoo had lost his mind. All valid questions, actually. Yes, Jinwoo said simply. She's around. Understood. Minute J hung up, leaving Jinwoo with the city view and a growing sense that his two worlds were about to collide in ways he couldn't control. He spent the day doing ordinary things that felt extraordinary, buying wine at a shop in Gangnam where the owner called him sir with the nervous energy of someone who knew exactly who he was, picking up flowers from a market vendor who tried not to make eye contact, standing in his closet debating whether a crime boss wore jeans to a casual dinner or if that was trying too hard. By 6:30 p.m., he was parked outside Amora's building in Hongdae, a modest walk-up in a neighborhood full of students and artists and people whose biggest crime was illegally streaming music. Her apartment was 4th floor, no elevator, with a view of a coffee shop and a street vendor selling tteokbokki. It was perfect. Jinwoo climbed the stairs with a bottle of Spanish Red and a bouquet of flowers that suddenly seemed absurd. What was he doing? He was Jinwoo Park. He didn't do flowers and wine and domestic dinners. He did business meetings in warehouses and transactions in back rooms and relationships that ended with cash in envelopes and no hard feelings. Then Amora opened the door, wearing jeans and a Seoul National University sweatshirt with a hole in the sleeve, her hair up in a messy bun. And Jinwoo remembered exactly why he was doing this. You brought flowers, she said, her smile going soft around the edges. That's adorable. Did you Google what to bring to a girl's apartment? Or did this come naturally? I'm very cultured. You're very something. She took the flowers and wine, then grabbed his hand and pulled him inside. Welcome to my kingdom. It's small, there's a weird smell I can't locate, and the shower has 2 temperatures, Arctic and surface of the sun. But it's mine. The apartment was tiny, maybe a quarter the size of Jinwoo's penthouse, but it felt more like a home than anywhere he'd ever lived. Books stacked on every surface. A blanket draped over a couch that had seen better days. Photos pinned to a corkboard. Amora with friends, with family, with colleagues, always laughing. A kitchen the size of a closet where something was already simmering on the stove, filling the air with spices Jinwoo couldn't name but immediately loved. This is... He trailed off, not sure how to finish. Small. Cheap. A fire hazard. Amora was already putting the flowers in a water bottle because apparently she didn't own a vase. It's not a penthouse overlooking the Han River, but it's got character. I was going to say it's perfect. She turned, surprise flickering across her face. Oh, well, that's smooth. You've been practicing. I don't practice. Sure you don't. She pointed to the couch. Sit. Wine duty is yours. I need to check the rice before it becomes a science experiment. Jinwoo opened the wine while Amora moved through her kitchen with efficient chaos, tasting, stirring, adjusting, all while telling him about her week. A difficult client in Busan. Her mother's latest phone call asking when she was coming home. The yoga class she tried and immediately hated because forced relaxation is an oxymoron. Your turn, she said, pulling out mismatched bowls. How was your week? Any warehouses? Life-changing decisions? Existential crises? Just the usual crisis. He poured wine into 2 glasses that didn't match either. My crew thinks I'm going soft. Are you? I don't know. Maybe. He took a sip. The wine was good, rich and complex. I made decisions this week that the old me wouldn't have made. Gave a loan extension when I should have escalated pressure. Let a late payment slide because the borrower's son was in the hospital. Small things. Small mouses, Amora corrected, bringing over 2 bowls of jambalaya that smelled like heaven. That's not going soft, Jinwoo. That's remembering you're human. They ate on her couch because she didn't have a dining table, which should have felt wrong but instead felt exactly right. The jambalaya was incredible, spicy, complex, with andouille sausage and shrimp and a depth of flavor that made Jinwoo's usual expensive meals taste like cardboard. This is amazing, he said around a mouthful. Where did you learn to cook like this? My grandmother. She believed that food was love made edible, which sounds cheesy but is actually true. Amora curled her legs under her, getting comfortable. She taught all of us, me and my brothers, because she said men who couldn't cook were just adult babies waiting for someone to mother them. Wise woman. The wisest. She passed 3 years ago, but I still hear her voice every time I cook. Amora's smile turned bittersweet. She would have liked you. Actually, she had a thing for difficult men with soft centers. Called them walnuts, hard to crack but worth the effort. I'm a walnut. The walnutiest. She poked his arm with her fork. All tough exterior and secret softness. Very on brand. They ate in comfortable silence, the kind that only happened when people stopped performing. Jinwoo found himself relaxing in ways he didn't usually allow. Shoulders dropping, jaw unclenching, the constant vigilance that kept him alive finally taking a break. Can I ask you something? Amora said eventually, setting down her bowl. Always. What do you want? Long term. I mean, not the empire. Not the business, you star. What does Jinwoo want when he's not busy being the ice prince? The question landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading out in uncomfortable directions. Jinwoo thought about his penthouse, his reputation, his carefully constructed life. He thought about 3 a.m. insomnia and the weight of being feared and the loneliness that money couldn't buy away. I want. He paused, searching for truth. I want to wake up and not immediately calculate threats. I want to have dinner without checking escape routes. I want to be tired because I actually lived that day, not because I spent it pretending to be someone I'm not sure I want to be anymore. Amora's expression softened. That's honest. You inspire honesty. It's annoying. I get that a lot. She shifted closer, her thigh pressing against his. Here's what I think. I think you spent so long being the ice prince that you forgot it was supposed to be a role, not a personality. And now the role is suffocating you. But you don't know how to take it off without losing everything you've built. Jinwoo stared at her. Are you secretly a therapist? No, I'm secretly someone who also wears masks and knows how exhausting it gets. She set her wine glass down, turning to face him fully. I came to Seoul to escape Chicago. Oh, that's what I told myself. Really? I came because I was tired of being Maya's daughter and the smart one and the girl who's going places. I wanted to be someone new, someone without history. But you know what I learned? What? You can't outrun yourself. The masks follow you. The only way out is to stop wearing them. She reached up, her hand gentle on his cheek. So here's my question. Who is Jinwoo Park when he's not performing? No one had ever asked him that. Not once. I don't know, he admitted, his voice rough. I've been performing so long I'm not sure there's anything else. Well, Amora's smile was gentle, understanding. Let's find out together. No pressure, no timeline. Just us. Being honest. Being messy. Being whatever this is. This is terrifying. The best things usually are. She kissed him then. Slow, deliberate, nothing like the soju-fueled kiss outside the restaurant. This was intentional, a promise being made without words. Jinwoo pulled her closer, his hand sliding into her hair, and felt something in his chest crack open wider. When they broke apart, Amora was grinning. So, should we talk about the elephant in the room? Which elephant? There are several. The one where you're a crime boss and I'm an international consultant with a security clearance, and this is probably the worst idea either of us has ever had. Jinwoo laughed. Actually laughed. The sound rusty but real. Worst idea or best disaster? Both. Definitely both. She settled against him, her head on his shoulder. But I've always liked disasters. They're more interesting than safety. His phone buzzed. Minute J again. Asterisk boss. Kim Sang-min's crew was spotted in Gangnam. Just watching. But watching deliberately. Thought you should know that asterisk. The real world. Crashing in. Reminding him that mercy had consequences. That change made enemies. That his two worlds couldn't coexist peacefully forever. Jinwoo silenced his phone and pulled Amora closer. Everything okay? She asked quietly. No, he said honestly. But it will be. She didn't push, didn't demand explanations. Just held him while Seoul hummed outside her window. Oblivious, endless, full of people living complicated lives in small apartments with mismatched dishes and hearts full of hope. For the first time in years, Jinwoo Park felt like one of them. And it was terrifying. And it was perfect. The meeting Monday morning had the energy of a funeral where no one was quite sure who died. Jinwoo's crew filled the private room at the back of one of his legitimate businesses, a restaurant in Gangnam that served as a front and a gathering place. 20 men, various ages, all watching him with expressions ranging from loyal to skeptical to openly calculating. Kim Sang-min's boozing crew circling Seoul wasn't coincidence. Word had spread about Daejeong, about Mercy, about the ice prince melting. In their world, perception was reality, and reality could get you killed. Jinwoo stood at the head of the table, Minute J to his right, and felt the weight of inherited empire pressing down like atmospheric pressure. His father would have handled this with violence, a public display, a reminder of who held power. The old Jinwoo would have done the same. But he kept thinking about Amora's apartment, the jambalaya, the way she'd looked at him and asked who he was when he wasn't performing. I know there are concerns, Jinwoo began, his voice carrying the old ice even as something warmer churned beneath. About Daejeong, about my decisions, about whether Seoul is getting soft. Silence. Eyes watching, judging. Let me be clear. Seoul isn't soft. I'm not soft, but I am smart. He let his gaze move across each face. My father built this organization on fear. It worked. But fear also breeds resentment, desperation, stupidity. Daejeong stole because he was afraid to ask for help. How many others are making similar choices because they'd rather risk our wrath than admit weakness? Fear keeps people in line. One of the older men, Park Ji-hoon, said carefully. Your father understood that. My father died at 53 from a stress-induced heart attack, surrounded by people who feared him but wouldn't have saved him if the building was burning. Jinwoo's voice went cold. Is that the legacy we want? Is that strength? The room shifted uncomfortably. I'm not saying we become soft, Jinwoo continued. I'm saying we become smart. Daejeong now owes me personally. His loyalty is bought not with fear but with debt and gratitude. He'll work twice as hard, stay twice as loyal, because I gave him something he didn't expect, a chance. That's not weakness. That's strategy. Minute J spoke up, his support deliberate and public. The boss is right. We've already seen results. 3 other borrowers came forward this week about payment issues, asking for extensions, offering solutions. Before, they would have just disappeared or done something desperate. This is more efficient. Or it's an invitation for everyone to beg for mercy, another voice said. Young-soo, one of the younger enforcers, ambitious and stupid in equal measure. Kim Sang-min is watching because he thinks we're vulnerable. Maybe he's right. The challenge hung in the air like gun smoke. Jinwoo moved so fast that Young-soo didn't see it coming. One moment standing at the table's head, the next with his hand wrapped around the younger man's throat, pressing him against the wall. Not hard enough to choke, but hard enough to terrify. Let me clarify something, Jinwoo said, his voice dropping to the register that made grown men reconsider their life choices. I chose mercy for Daejung because it served the organization. I'm choosing violence for your disrespect because it serves the same purpose. Do you understand the difference? Youngsun nodded frantically, eyes wide. Jinwoo released him, stepping back. I'm not weak. I'm not soft. I'm evolving this organization into something sustainable, something that doesn't burn through loyalty and people like fuel. If Kim Sang-min wants to test Seoul, let him come. He'll learn the same lesson you just did. Mercy is a choice I make, not a weakness he can exploit. He turned back to the room. Anyone else have concerns? Silence. The good kind. Good. Now get back to work. And someone tell Kim Sang-min at Scouts that if I see them in Gangnam again, we'll have a conversation they won't enjoy. The meeting dispersed. Minute J stayed behind, his expression unreadable. That was dangerous, he said quietly, showing mercy and violence in the same breath. They don't know which version of you to follow. Good. Keep them uncertain. Uncertainty is its own kind of control. Jinwoo straightened his collar, the gesture automatic now, a habit born from Amora's touch. Besides, I'm uncertain too. At least we're all confused together. Minute J almost smiled. A woman. She's changing you. Is that a problem? I don't know yet. Ask me in 6 months. The older man paused. Your father would be. He'd have opinions. My father's dead. His opinions died with him. Jinwoo's voice carried no malice, just fact. I'm building something different. Something that might actually let me sleep at night. And if it fails, if Kim Sang-min sees opportunity, if the crew fractures, then I'll handle it. But I'd rather fail trying to be better than succeed at being miserable. Jinwoo grabbed his coat. I have plans tonight. Can you handle things? With a woman. Her name is Amora. And yes. Minute J studied him for a long moment. You're really doing this. Building a life outside the empire. Trying to. Good luck, boss. You're going to need it. Amora's text came at 3 p.m. Asterisk crisis at work. Need to vent over extremely unhealthy food. Your choice of location. Asterisk. Jinwoo found himself smiling at his phone like a teenager. He texted back. Asterisk I know a place. Pick you up at 7. Asterisk. Asterisk make it 6. This crisis requires immediate carbs. Asterisk. He took her to a pojangmaka, a street food tent in a neighborhood where crime bosses didn't usually eat. They sat on plastic stools, eating tteokbokki and fried dumplings while Amora ranted about a client who wanted synergistic solutions, but couldn't define what that meant. It's corporate speak for I have no idea what I want but I'll know it when I see it, she said, gesturing with a skewer. 3 weeks of work, and he just said not quite right like I'm a psychic who can read his mind. Want me to have someone talk to him? Amora paused mid-bite. Are you offering to send your crew after my client? I'm offering to have someone explain the value of clear communication. Very firmly. She laughed. The real laugh, head thrown back, completely unself-conscious. While I appreciate the offer, I think corporate intimidation requires different tactics than criminal intimidation. Though honestly, some days I'm not sure there's a difference. There isn't. Business is business. Spoken like a true crime boss. She leaned against him, comfortable despite the tiny plastic stool and the crowd pressing around them. How was your day? Any warehouse drama? Existential crises? Hostile takeovers? Jinwoo thought about the meeting, Youngsu's throat under his hand, the tightrope walk between mercy and violence. Nothing I couldn't handle. That's code for yes, all of those things, but I'm going to pretend I'm fine. She poked his side. You know you can actually tell me things, right? I'm not going to break. I know. I'm just. He trailed off, searching for words. I'm not used to having someone who wants to know. Well, get used to it. You're stuck with me now. She kissed his cheek, casual and perfect. That's the deal. You get jambalaya and emotional support. I get access to your criminal empire for when my clients get really annoying. That's not how this works. Sure it is. I'm the girlfriend of a crime boss. I get perks. She grinned at his expression. Oh, did I say girlfriend? I meant person you're casually seeing in a definitely not serious way. Girlfriend is fine. Yeah. Her smile went soft. You sure? Because that's a commitment, Jinwoo. Girlfriend means I get to meet your friends, invade your personal space, and have opinions about your life choices. You already do all those things. True, but now it's official. She raised her soju cup to terrible decisions and the people brave enough to make them. They drank, and Seoul hummed around them, oblivious, eternal, full of people making their own terrible decisions and hoping for the best. Jinwoo's phone buzzed. Minute J. Asterisk Kim Sang and its crew left Seoul. They got the message. We cleared at asterisk. Relief flooded through him. One crisis managed. One threat neutralized. The empire would hold, at least for now. Good news. Amora asked, reading his expression. The best. He put his phone away, choosing her over the endless demands of business. Dance with me. What? Dance with me. He stood, pulling her up. Right here. Jinwoo. There's no music. We're at a street food tent. People are staring. Let them stay. He pulled her close, swaying slightly to a rhythm only he could hear. I spent 34 years being the ice prince. Tonight I want to be the idiot dancing with his girlfriend at a pojangmaka. Amora's laugh bubbled up, bright and beautiful. You're ridiculous. You like ridiculous. I really do. She rested her head against his chest, moving with him despite the lack of music and the curious stares from other diners. This is nice. Weird, but nice. That's us. Weird but nice. They swayed in the soul night, two people from different worlds trying to build something in the space between. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. There would be complications. Kim Sang-min wasn't the only threat, and Jinwoo's past wouldn't disappear just because he wanted it to. But in that moment, with Amora in his arms and the city lights reflecting off the Han River in the distance, Jinwoo Park felt something he'd thought was dead. Hope. Hey, Amora said softly, looking up at him. Thank you. For what? For trying. For choosing to be human instead of just powerful. For letting me in. She touched his face, gentle and deliberate. I know it's scary. I know it's risky. But you're doing it anyway. And that's brave. I'm terrified. Good. That means you actually care about something. That means you're alive. She kissed him, slow and sweet, ignoring the whoops from nearby diners. Now take me home. My place. Not your scary penthouse. And let's watch a terrible movie and pretend we're normal people for a few hours. We're not normal people. No, but we can pretend. That's what makes it fun. They left the pojangmaka hand in hand, disappearing into Seoul's endless night. Behind them, the street vendor smiled. She'd seen many things in her years at this corner, but a crime boss dancing with his girlfriend was new. She hoped they made it. The world needed more people brave enough to choose love over fear. In the distance, the Han River flowed on, ancient, patient, witness to 1,000 love stories and 1,000 betrayals. It didn't judge. It just flowed, accepting whatever soul poured into it. And Jinwoo Park, walking through the city he ruled with a woman who'd cracked his eyes, finally understood what his empire had been missing. Not more fear, not more control, but the courage to be vulnerable. To choose mercy when violence was easier. To build something worth protecting instead of just protecting what he'd built. It wouldn't be easy. There would be more Kim Sang minutes, more challenges, more moments where his two worlds collided and threatened to destroy everything. But tonight, with Amora's hand in his and soul spreading out before them like a promise, Jinwoo Park chose hope. And that choice, that single, terrifying, impossible choice, changed everything. 6 months later, Daejung would send Jinwoo a photo of his daughter after successful surgery, with a note that said simply, "Thank you for seeing me as human." Minute J would reluctantly admit that mercy had made the organization stronger, not weaker. Kim Sang-min would try one more time to push into Seoul and would retreat with fewer men and more respect for the boss who'd evolved. And Jinwoo would wake up in Amora's tiny apartment in Hongdae, sunlight streaming through cheap curtains, and realize he couldn't remember the last time he calculated threats before opening his eyes. The ice prince had melted. What emerged was just a man, flawed, trying, human, choosing every day to be better than his worst instincts. It was messy. It was complicated. It was real. And for Jinwoo Park, that was enough.